In the previous lesson, we created actions to fetch threads, users, and posts from our database. I'm sure you noticed that all these actions do the exact same thing, with their only difference being the resource that is fetched. One approach to eliminate this code repetition is to compose these actions using higher order functions, just like we did for the append x to y mutations. If we take that path, it will be easier for us to make changes in the future. If, for example, we need to manipulate the incoming resources, in addition to assigning the ID to the doc.id. Though there is a simpler approach, which is to create a generic action, like fetch item, and reuse it to create one of our fetch actions. To get started, I will copy the fetch post action, and I will create fetch item from it. Let's see which static values we can extract to arguments in order to be able to create fetch actions for any given resource. In the first line, we log a message with the chat emoji for posts. Because each fetch action displays its own emoji, the emoji can be one of the arguments. Next up is the collection name to get the resource from. Let's call this argument resource. The next thing our actions do is to store the value of the snapshot into a variable and call a setX mutation, such as setPost. One approach to make this dynamic is to extract the name of the mutation into an argument, that is, the setPost mutation. Though, because all the setX mutations follow the exact same pattern, and because it's a burden to create a new one for each resource, like the categories and the forms, we can create a generic mutation like setItem. That will accept the name of the resource so that we can locate and set the item in the state. Looks good. Let's go back to our action where we can use our new mutation setItem. We'll pass it the resource argument along with the ID and the item object. Here, I will also rename the post variable to item to make it more generic. And that means we can use the object property shorthand here. It's also handy that setting the ID lives here in the snapshot. This way, we don't have to manually set it for each one. Instead, it's done for every single resource in this one place. And with that, our fetch item action is ready. Let's try it out by refactoring the fetch post action. This time, we can dispatch fetch item. Give it the resource posts, pass along the ID argument, and the post emoji. So, we'll need dispatch here. We can get rid of the rest of the code and return our dispatched action. If we give it a shot in the browser, something's not working. If we take a look, we misspelled resource. And now, everything is working as before. Awesome. Let's use it in our other actions. They look nice and short now. Notice that we don't need to wrap dispatch in a promise. Since the fetch item action returns a promise, we can return that directly. Now that we have our more generic fetch item, let's look for setPost, setThread, and setUser throughout the store and just change it out to use the generic fetch item. Now we can delete setPost. We'll do the same for setThread. We can delete setThread. And now finally, let's take care of setUser. I'll switch back to the browser to ensure that we didn't break anything. And we didn't. In the next lesson, we will work on composing reusable actions that fetch multiple items.